everyone, welcome to a special episode of Diamond Cast, where today we're going to be interviewing Ben all about the new single in Venom. Hi Ben.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Marvellous. Thank you so much for doing this. I think it's really interesting to get some insights onto the track, and
Yeah.
especially as it's finally coming out on the 12th of the 12th, which somebody else pointed out with the lyric video by 12-inch Media. So there's so many 12s going on. It must mean something.
I thought it was just an easy way of doing the date, so you didn't have to do it twice the way, different ways around for England and America.
that is also true. Although, hey, 12 times 2 is 24, and that's the year. So in fact, there's 4 12s, 5 12s.
Oh wow. I
Yeah.
didn't even realize that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so if you're into all this numbers and stuff like that, the mean stuff, then this is a special day for a single release.
Exactly, which is
Yeah.
exactly why we waited this long until this exact date. No other reasons, just so we could hit that exact point in time for astrological, one of them, both of them reasons.
It will be both astrological and it will be astronomical.
Yes, as in cool.
Yes. So yes, we're going to get some insights into In Venom from Ben, some exclusive insights for the audience. So yeah, could tell us a little bit about what it was like. So the new singles features Chris Harms from Lord of the Lost and Timo from 69 Eyes. Co-wrote it with you, did you?
That's correct. Yes. So I'd known Chris for quite a long time. We'd met at Trash Fest in Finland a long time ago. And we just sort of stayed in touch over the years. We would pass each other in festivals and stuff like that. And then he asked me to collaborate with him on their Judas album in two ways. One was to co-write a song called Argent, which I really, really enjoyed doing. And then also to put words and lyrics to an instrumental that they'd already completed called well, it had many different names, but my version of it was called Still Life to Die For, which was a title that I'd had for ages. I thought it was quite an interesting sort of play on words. And both of those collaborations I really, really enjoyed doing. So it then felt quite natural to say to him, hey, why don't you do something for Diamond Black? Why don't you do a vocal appearance? And he's got such a inimitable, unique vocal tone and palette that I felt it would really, really lend itself to one of our tunes. And In Venom really worked because it's got a low vocal in the verses, which is very suitable for his timbre. And also it's a faster, more up-tempo track. So we thought if he wants to do any screaming as well, there's room for that. And so there's a little
Which he
bit
does.
which he does. There's a little bit of that on there as well, which is very cool. What's interesting about it was because one of the reasons why the song is called In Venom rather than what would be logical to call it Fears or Fears something or other was that Chris had already released a song called Fears a few years before.
Right.
So rather than create the confusion, we thought, well, let's look for another title that's within the lyrics to call the song. And in the second verse, which is actually one of the lyrics he sings, is "In Venom you confide." So we pulled that out, thinking that's quite a kind of a weighty title for a song. And as a bit of a side quest, I think one of the things that we always have tried to do and will continue to try and do with Diamond Black is give the songs interesting names. So when you search for them, hopefully there's only our song with that name. Both in the sense of wanting to be unique, but also wanting songs to be almost like chapters of a book or episodes in a TV show, where it's not just quite a generic title that yesterday something or missing this or whatever. It's quite potent and it's quite it's got a lot of kind of it's quite an emotive thing, and I think that we've had that with our titles with Ghost in the Glass and Through the Misery and In Venom. I'd like to create titles that make people interested in listening to the songs, and I think we've done that quite well. So
Yeah.
that was why the song is called what it is, as opposed to what would be more intuitive, which would have been just to call it like Fears or something like that. So it was great working with him on the tune. And of course, he was like super professional about everything. All the files he sent over were perfect. Everything was just, it was flawless and seamless. So it was really easy to just drop the stuff into the track and it sounded amazing straight away. When it comes to Timo, Again, I'd known Yerky for a while from the 69 Eyes through various things. I'd not properly been introduced to Timo, so it was Yanni, our producer and co-writer, who introduced him and said, "Look, we really need for this track for Venom." There was already like a chorus melody that I'd come up with that just wasn't really very good, and Yanni said, "Let's do something better. Why don't I ask Timo to come up with something that's a bit kind of the cult-like kind of a vibe, a nice guitar lick that can offset the vocal." And as a side quest, another thing that I always like to do with songwriting is in the choruses try and create two hooks, a vocal hook and an instrumental hook as well, so the two can play off each other, and there's like a sort of an interplay. And that was something that I was inspired that the Cult do a lot. They think about songs like Rain or Firewoman. There's a vocal melody and a guitar melody at the same time. So that was something that I always really thought was good to have in a chorus. So Timo came up with this great riff, and what actually happened was that I ended up playing the riff. He'd written it, but I ended up playing it on the choruses because we decided we wanted to move it slightly, so it sort of had a different counterpoint with the vocal. But he did actually play on the verses. So some of the clean guitar arpeggios, the spooky arpeggio clean notes on the verses, that's him actually playing. So he's co-written the song and he actually plays on it as well. So
Oh, nice.
bringing this. I think having both Chris and Timo, both with the history that they've got for writing melody and vocal with emotional sadness and emotional gravitas to it, a darkness to it, really lent itself to the track. And it's come out really, really well.
And you went on tour with Lord of the Lost last year, didn't you? Can you tell us a bit about that?
It was amazing. So the guys could not have made us feel more welcome, and be more accommodating to working with us. And it's so nice when you work with a band who's a significantly bigger band, and yet they still have time to make sure that your needs are met as a band, and you feel comfortable, and you're not like desperately no sound check going on at the last minute, clambering on the stage. Which if you've ever been in a band that's supported a bigger band, that can happen, and that's just the nature of it, you know. But in the case of Lord of the Lost, they were super accommodating and kind, and made us feel really at ease. So it was a really great show. And the nice thing about the Lord of the Lost shows was that, similar to when we played with Esprit d'Air, it was like a captive audience of hundreds of people who would probably quite like us because the crossover that we have with Lord of the Lost and Esprit, I think is significant enough that there are similar aesthetic, thematic, ethical kind of themes and feel between what we do, a dark element, a melodic element, and yet it's different enough to feel that you're getting a cross-section of different material on one night. So when we walked onto the stage to play, I remember feeling pretty confident of, if we do what we do really well, I think people will like it. They might love it, but I think people will like it. And we got a significant amount of new followers and fans out of those shows, both in terms of people coming up afterwards and saying, "Oh, that was great, I've never seen you before." And what was really nice again was that because we speak on stage about the meanings of the songs in between to give them a bit of context, people were coming up afterwards and saying, "What you said about that song really meant something to me." And then seeing those fans then follow us online as well was really rewarding. So it was a great experience, and I just wish we could have done more. In fact, one of the shows that we did was one of the most enjoyable DB shows I've ever done. And
Which one was that?
It was the one in Chester. It was the one with the balcony.
Chester was
in Chester.
Great, wasn't it? Yeah, it was amazing.
It was just like from the offset, people were cheering, and it just was a palpable sense of enjoyment and excitement in the room, and welcoming of this band that most of them had never seen before.
It was that. It had like a like people at the top and then people down the bottom.
Yeah, so it had the balcony, and another really
balcony,
nice thing
that's what I meant to say.
That's the word, balcony.
Balcony.
Another thing I really remember about that show was that it was, in fact, in Venom, in the middle section, because it's the second song that we play, and we were playing both songs like one straight into the other. We identified that the middle section as a bit where I could kind of introduce the band to the audience. And the sound of the music as well, and the speed and the vibe made it feel really good to actually speak over that to the audience. And what I remember, it was the first time we'd done that. And also, what was nice was that all of us gathered around, band and crew, yourself included, and we talked about how should we do it? What sort of things should I say? What do you guys think would work? And it just felt really nice to be part of a team that everybody's getting involved in like all aspects of the show.
So tell us a bit more about the song. What's In Venom actually about?
So the song is about a cycle of addiction and anxiety, and it's a sense of being on high alert all the time, feeling afraid all the time, but not really sure why. And there's this sort of hum of static that seems to be in the background of your life, that you just feel on edge and you feel afraid and you feel on high alert. And so a way to quieten that sort of buzz of static is to go into substance abuse. And then, of course, that cycle just means you come out, when you sober up, you feel even worse and you feel even more afraid. So you do it again. It's just this downward spiral of that. And it was sort of, we wanted to kind of set the story of the song in terms of metaphor within this dystopian cityscape. So the idea being that you're being lured into this underworld of temptation and evil, and hedonism. And it's very claustrophobic and it's very seedy. And I wanted that to be kind of reflected in the way that the lyrics were deployed. So even though it doesn't necessarily say specifically, hey, we've gone into this dark city, and it's all, there were words like a neon felony, which I like to think of the idea of the neon lights and it luring you into this kind of sense of sort of hedonism and evil, and so it was sort of intimated through it, like stealing into the night, narrows of their eyes, ideas of like short, like claustrophobic streets and things like that. So that's sort of where it was set. And then when it came to doing the lyric video, and I spoke to David, who is the 12-inch media chap, I thought, well, let's really reflect that in the video. Let's literally create this dystopian cityscape. And he was brilliant at bringing, my kind of muddled, confused way. Do you sort of, just a kind of like sci-fi sort of kind of Marvel-y kind of thing. And he just was able to go, yeah, what you mean like this? I was like, yes. And I think he really captured the colours as well, because he took the artwork that Adam had done and again expanded that in terms of the symbol and the colour scheme into this this very arresting and emotive visual that he's done.
Yeah. So this dystopian hellscape that you're describing, is this when you're in that sort of cycle of anxiety and depression? Is that the way the rest of the world looks to somebody who might be feeling that level of pressure and constraint?
Well, yes, and I guess in a literal sense, because when I think of the lyrics of the song, I think of specific places within cities that I've lived. But in a literal sense, it can almost be the sense of that nighttime being the when you start to feel, oh, actually, I'm all right again. I'm going to go and do this thing again. And then it's the daytime, the daylight hours, when you're just sort of, well, certainly I was just like hiding in my house, terrified of the outside and just full of anxiety with all the curtains closed. And then as the evening would come around again, I'd feel safe to go outside, because both like chemically I'd be feeling a bit better, but also it would be nighttime again and it would feel safe again. I wouldn't be sort of exposed to
the nice blanket of night. It's like
exactly.
It cuddles you a bit. I definitely don't get that feeling. It was always like night. It's like, oh, it's all right now. Everything's dark again. Like winter's great because it gets dark early. You can go out more against the cold blue light of day, especially in England when it's like mostly cloudy. So it is a cold, horrible light. It's not nice and sunny.
So it's not even good. Yeah, it's not even good light. Although similarly, when you're feeling really terrible, the idea of being sunny outside is sometimes even more terrifying. Just sort of the unforgiving blaze of the sun.
You've got like a metaphorical lyric for every single weather type.
Yes, the blaze of the sun, the unforgiving. Yeah, definitely. That sense of Dark City was literal and metaphorical, I think.
So what fears drag you down?
It's something a bit undefined, and I think we'd like the listener to interpret it in their own way. I'm going to go back to what I said before, which is that general sense of unease becomes a habit. It becomes a neurological, hardwired thing of, I feel scared all the time. that's just what my life is like. I don't really know why, I just do. If I'm to pick it apart, well, what are you actually scared of? What actually is it? And you start to analyze it. I would say that I feel generally I've always felt quite insecure. And I think these fears are things to do with mental health, physical health, aging, never being enough, never doing enough, failing, fear of failure, people disliking me, and feeling overly responsible for others' emotions and actions around me, feeling like it's my responsibility to sort of control everything and making sure everybody's okay all the time, which is of course absolutely impossible, and it's just a tail chasing exercise. So that fear of all that stuff going around all the time is definitely something that I'm working on. And I think with the new album, we're going to see more and more shades of positivity, of getting through the other side of these feelings, because Venom is, in a sense, there isn't necessarily a clear positive message in there. It's written about an experience. The positivity is the catharsis of it, the fact we're talking about it, the fact that we are putting it out there and letting other people relate to it. I think that's the positivity, that's the therapy of it. We're going to take it further with the newer stuff, where there will be more of a clear positive journey through the issues.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I was thinking, I've no, because I was thinking, fears drag you down is really, it's a really powerful statement on its own for me, because I'm looking at that and I think, yeah, fears drag you down, so conquer them. Because I don't want to be dragged down. And you think about the types of fears that drag you down, like you said about, like sort of ongoing fears that aren't something immediate that you can solve, but things that are like you mentioned, aging. Everybody is aging all the time. There's nothing we can do about it. It's the only thing you can do about it is feel better about it, accept it, learn how to
Yes.
do that. So practicing how to conquer those fears that drag you down will help you to keep that ability for next time, and then know how to sort of deal with a fear that you cannot actually solve because it's impossible.
Yeah, that's very well put. And it's about I've been working with a therapist recently about reframing things. So what's really useful is that when you think about something that has given you a negative emotional response, whether that be fear or anger or indignation or frustration, or you write it down, you write down the feelings that you've had, and then you try and reframe it. So example could be about aging, would be like, oh, I can't believe I'm such and such age. Reframe it. Isn't it great that I'm this age? I've had all this experience. I've learned a bunch of stuff through my life. I've got all these great friends, and I'm more secure in my career because I've been doing it for ages. And trying to reframe it to be positive about it, because that doesn't change the actual fact, but it changes your view of the fact. And that's like what you were saying about how do you learn to cope with those fears. And it's about identifying the source of the fear and changing it from a fear into something positive. And I think that's a really good technique that we can try and use.
I wonder what fears drag you down means to other people.
Yeah, and it'd be really interesting to see, because what it really does is that it just stops that motivation and that enthusiasm that we have. Particularly, you're an artist and a creative, and sometimes you get hyped out about something, and then you have this just negative thought that makes you go, "Oh, what's the point? I can't be bothered. It won't do anything." And just overcoming that, and go, "No, do the thing," because if you start
Do it
doing the
anyway.
thing. Yeah, exactly. And then usually something good will come from it, even if it's just the fact that you're being active.
Absolutely. Do it anyway. Imagine no one's going to see it. You're just going to do it anyway because you want to do it. And then the more you do things like that, you've built up a consistent body of work or practice. And then you'll suddenly, just because you're doing the thing because you love it and you've got the passion for it, when you start talking to other people about it and show them the things that you've been working on, it's like, oh wow, okay, you're really dedicated and you're passionate about this thing, and you've just done it because you love it. And then good things happen. Good things come
Yeah.
because your dedication shines.
Absolutely. And you teach yourself that it's okay to, inverted commas, fail, progress, not perfection, all those things we talk about of Your first work, it will not be your greatest work. That's yet to come, but it needs the other works in order to become the greatest work. A bit like if there's a band you really like and you think their first album was such and such, you find out they did two other ones before. They're a bit rubbish.
Yeah, and everybody was in a
didn't even
different band before or something, and then
yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it took
totally.
that perseverance, and it took releasing those first couple of albums, which maybe weren't very well received or very well produced, to get them to the point of your favorite album.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it's just recognizing that is can be quite difficult because we're all like, we want to be the best thing straight away.
So In Venom is a live fan favorite. It goes down really well at gigs. Are you excited that it's finally being released?
Yes, yes. So what let me just,
I saw
yes.
when we
So
posted the Chris Harms snippet the other day, he commented and just wrote finally.
yeah,
I thought
yeah,
that was
yeah. Because
brilliant.
it had been a while since we'd actually worked on the track together, and it was just so exciting to get it released. Because one of the most exciting things about playing live is seeing people know the words, because it means that it's really affected them and they've listened to it a lot and they've come out to see you, and the passion of people singing along. And that's obviously a lot easier if the music is released and they can listen to it in like high fidelity. So I'm really excited about as we release this, and in 2025, as we've got a much more consistent release schedule going forward, of that we're going to be able to play shows where people on the front row know all the words to all the songs because they can actually listen to them. So that for me is super exciting, to know that we're getting closer to that image I've got in my head of performing these songs and everybody knowing all the words.
It's not far off. I
No,
mean, it's
exactly.
not far. I've been in the front rows of your shows, and everybody's dancing and singing, having a great time.
Particularly on Fall Into the Silence, where I just tell everybody what the chorus words are before the song, so they've got no excuse. You should hand out sheets before you come in, like a hymn
Like
sheet.
hymn
But
sheet.
everybody, here's the lyrics for the today's gig. Maybe they should start doing that. Like, here's the lyrics for today's gig, everyone, if you want to sing along.
Did you used to have that at school, like primary school, when there was like singing? Do you have singing lessons, or with the whole school in the assembly hall, and they'd hand out, not for hymns, for like normal songs, and they'd hand out the lyrics for the day?
Yeah, totally. And when you say normal
Yeah.
songs, what would you actually be singing as these normal songs?
Oh, as I meant like non-hymns, like
Yeah, like what? But
songs.
what were they?
Oh, we used to sing like we used to sing all the sort of wartime songs, and then like songs from musicals and songs. Well, I suppose I don't think it counts as hymns, but it was the Harvest Festival, and we used to sing songs about broad beans and things, and daisies and that kind of thing.
What were the?
I loved it
That always kind of fascinated me. That why was it that decades and decades after the Second World War, we were still singing these songs, and it just
because
was
they're great.
normal. I
Because
mean,
they're
yes,
really
they
good
are
songs.
great. But which ones would you do?
I don't want to sing them because I've got a terrible voice. What do? We do any old iron.
That was
You know
so
the
cockney the way you said that. Any old iron?
any old iron. You know. What's the other one? There was loads of them, but
Pack up your troubles in your old kit bag. Remember that one?
no. What was
It was
the?
almost exactly the same as this, It's a Long Way to Tipperary.
Oh yeah.
There were ones about trains and stuff as well. Didn't we have a lovely time the day we went to Bangor?
Is that something that they sang in the west of England?
Yeah, yeah. Didn't you have a lovely time the day you went to Bangor? The lyrics of those old songs are so funny because they're so kind of proper and so particular and so like well enunciated. There's this one about there's this one that we used to have to sing about, and I think about it every frickin' time I'm on a train, because the sign that says about the emergency alarm,
Yeah.
it says just the song went, to stop the train in cases of emergency, pull on the chain, penalty for improper use, £100.
Really? That's
Yeah,
cool.
that
So
that
teaching you.
ending.
That's how it's, and that's how you were taught to sing that at school.
Yeah,
Okay. I mean, I've never heard that before. If anyone else has heard was taught to sing that at school, please let us know in the comments, because that's something I would think is quite unique. It's pretty awesome though.
it just so like proper English and enunciated and to stop the train.
That's
In
got to be your
cases of
sound check. That's got to be your
emergency.
sound check.
And I just love that bit at the end as well. Penalty for improper use, £100. Like the same musical theatre, like, oh wow, £100, which I imagine in 1914 was probably a lot.
Yeah,
It's still a
loads.
lot
It's
now.
like the other one we used to sing was the theme song for Dad's Army, and the kids used to
Who do you
shout
think
like,
that you're kidding?
yeah, and
Yeah,
they'd shout it out and belt it out and be really like,
patriotic, very patriotic
yes,
about it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was really because it was all. I suppose they taught kids that after the war so that people would be aware of it and everything, so that young kids would learn.
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah,
But yeah, so those I don't know how
anyway.
we got on this hymn sheets.
Don't
That was
know.
it.
Oh.
There was
Oh,
stuff like
handing
I
out
saw.
lyric sheets at the beginning of gigs.
Yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, it's been lovely catching up with you, Ben. Thank you very much
absolutely.
for or is it, have you got any last words or anything else you want to add to the In Venom pre-release
Just
chat?
to say, I really, really hope everybody likes the tune and the lyrics mean something to you. Share the tune wherever you can. Let's get the fan base building. Being really appreciative to all you guys' support and patience, waiting for this song to come out. And as we said, what we're planning to do now is be a lot more consistent with our release schedule. So there will be more songs ongoing, and you don't have to wait 18 months between each one.
I'm sure everyone's going to love that. I can't wait. 2025 is going to be huge. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what's coming.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nat.